This video was brought to you by Nebula. Since it spluttered onto our screens 3 years ago, GB News has become somewhat of a news item itself. The right-wing, anti-woke TV channel is infamous in Britain for stoking controversy, triggering debate, and getting itself into some serious legal trouble. Earlier this week, the company released its latest financials, revealing losses in the tens of millions of pounds, despite the broadcaster saying it wants to be the biggest in the UK by 2028, which suggests that things don't seem to be going so well behind the cameras either. So in this video, we're going to take a look at how GB News started, how it's going, and whether it could actually go bust. Let's start with some context. GB News, for those who don't know, is a controversial right-wing UK broadcaster which only launched fairly recently, in 2021. Over its short lifetime, it's dealt with a whole storm of crises, including technical hiccups, financial issues, and numerous lawsuits. Just this week, there's already been 2 more major developments in the saga: the firing of a main presenter, and the revelation that the channel lost £42.4 million in its latest accounts published on Tuesday. Now, things have always been rocky when it comes to the channel's reputation, for reasons we'll get to in a bit. But financially, GB News actually started out with some pretty strong backing. It was originally founded in September 2019 under the holding company All Perspectives Limited, with an initial £60 million in funding coming from the British hedge fund tycoon Paul Marshall, who now holds a 41% stake in the business, as well as money coming from Dubai-based investment firm Legatum and American media group Discovery, which injected another £20 million before selling its stake to other backers after it merged with Warner Brothers in 2022. Something we discussed in another video earlier this week. Anyway, according to 2 sources close to media mogul Rupert Murdoch, Murdoch also considered investing in the channel initially, before setting up his own rival network, Talk TV, which also announced this week that it's scrapping its TV channel and going online only. Anyway, GB News' model is actually pretty similar to Fox Nation, a subscription-funded streaming service for Fox News mega fans. That's because it relies on keeping running costs down to a very ambitious £25 million a year, by essentially prioritizing non-stop talk on an internal mandate of rent the news, own the personalities. According to an FT article in 2021, GB News expects £40 million in revenue and 111,000 daily viewers by its 5th year, with a third of its revenue coming from 134,000 paying members given access to on-air talent, forums, and exclusive content. To ensure that the membership model would work, GB News needed to see rapid growth, especially being a startup, which doesn't seem to have happened just yet. So, now let's take a look at GB News' current situation, both financially and otherwise. As mentioned, GB News initially expected £40 million in revenue by its 5th year, but in its latest accounts, revenue from its 3rd year was just £6.7 million, up from £3.6 million the year before, which means that even if GB News were to double its revenue next year and in the year after, it would still only reach £26.8 million in year 5. It's not just the money either. They're not seeing rapid growth in TV or radio viewership either, with daily viewers up just 18% from 77,000 in 2022 to roughly 91,000 in 2023. However, on its digital platforms, GB News has apparently seen some strong growth, tripling its Facebook and YouTube reach in the last year, and increasing page views on their website by 4 times. Additionally, TV ad revenue has climbed to £4.2 million from £3 million in the year before, despite reports of an advertising boycott. So, does that mean that GB News is out of the woods? Well, not quite. Firstly, in comparison to the UK's other major news broadcasters, these numbers are absolutely minuscule, and the brand ranks 20th in the UK in terms of reach. The BBC, for instance, reaches 76% of the UK's population and gets billions of page views a month, compared to GB News' 51.9 million in May. And while GB News is the fastest growing media brand in the UK, according to the Press Gazette, the company's accumulated loss should certainly be worrying. Its newly published £42 million loss was a sharp increase on the already significant £30.8 million from the year before, meaning that GB News now owes its holding company, All Perspectives, a huge £83.8 million in total. As such, existing investors are expected to have to inject further funds into the broadcaster this year in order to cover its losses, which seem to relate to the cost of growing the company, with the number of staff increasing from 175 in May 2022 to 295 in May 2023. Also, on top of that, GB News also keeps having terrible PR, which, as media commentators have pointed out, could further impact finances. In the same way that Elon Musk's reckless management of X has led to an ad revenue crisis, various GB News-related scandals could turn advertisers or potential investors off, as they might not want to be associated with the hysterics and legally questionable actions of their presenters. And to give you some examples from just this week, the former Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn has announced legal action against Brexit Party politician turned TV host Nigel Farage for defamation over this statement.
But I was never a subscriber to the madcap conspiracy theory that the Jews run the world. But I tell you who was. Yes, Jeremy Corbyn, the Labour leader that you supported.
And GB News' flagship presenter Dan Wootton has finally been axed after a months-long investigation over his handling of comments by right-wing pundit Lawrence Fox about a female journalist, which were ruled to be clearly and unambiguously misogynistic.
Show me a single self-respecting man that would like to climb into bed with that woman, ever. Ever. Who wasn't an incel, who wasn't a cucked little incel.
Finally, GB News has also been criticised for its heavy right-wing influence, having given shares to the Conservative Party politician Jacob Rees-Mogg, who was paid nearly £325,000 by the broadcaster last year, as well as ex-UKIP leader Nigel Farage and ex-leader of the Northern Irish DUP Arlene Foster as part of an incentive scheme. Recent analysis by The Guardian also revealed that GB News paid Tory MPs more than £660,000 in appearance fees and salaries since it launched, compared to just £1,100 to Labour MPs. Although we should mention that many MPs, including from Labour, do appear on the channel without payment. One such beneficiary, though, is Lee Anderson, who lost the whip last week over alleged Islamophobic comments, who earns £100,000 a year from the channel. This obviously all raises questions around journalistic integrity, but it also is just bad for business, because relying so hard on Tory MPs for content doesn't work so well if the Tories die out at the next election. So where does GB News go from here? Well, it's obviously still early days, and GB News' latest accounts suggest that their directors are satisfied with how things are going and expect growth going forwards. However, the channel seems to have an everlasting stream of run-ins with the UK's broadcasting regulator Ofcom due to presenters breaching editorial guidelines. So, unless GB News starts reining in the hysteria that sometimes overtakes broadcasts, it's likely that most Brits will continue to see it as an unreliable fringe news source with little prospect of turning a profit anytime soon. If you want to keep learning and expanding your knowledge, then I'd recommend that you check out Wendover Productions' brilliant series, The Logistics of X. Now, you likely know Wendover already, but in this series, they dive deeper into the logistics and operations behind everyday things, from search and rescue operations to ski resorts and coal mining. One episode that I think you'll particularly enjoy is their latest, which gets into the logistics of weapons manufacturing, something that's key to a number of topics we regularly discuss on TLDR videos, and something that directly impacts wars and conflicts around the world. It's a brilliantly researched and thorough series that's exclusively available on our streaming service, Nebula. Now, as you likely know, Nebula is a service that we built with a bunch of our creator friends and is the home to tons of smart, educational content from all of your favorite creators. The best part is that by signing up, you not only get access to exclusive series like The Logistics of X, Modern Conflicts from Real Life Law, or China Actually by Polymatter, it also directly supports TLDR. That's because you signing up contributes to the budget of these big budget documentaries and helps us grow and expand our ambitions. So if you want to get more superb content and support TLDR, then if you sign up using the link below, you not only support us directly, but you also get Nebula for 40% off an annual plan. That's less than £2 a month. So thanks for your support and for backing Nebula.